The Colorado Avalanche have been a league powerhouse for years, but they haven't been able to get it done come playoff time. Coming off the President's Trophy, everyone had the Colorado Avalanche going deep last year in the playoffs. And after they swept the Blues in the first round and blew out the Knights in Game 1, everyone was looking pretty solid with their predictions. I personally had them winning the Cup. But they couldn't get it done, losing in a 7-game series to the Golden Knights, and the face of the Avs, Nathan MacKinnon, was visibly upset by this, and understandably so. Any player wants to get there and win it all. It doesn't matter what you do in the regular season, and he just wanted to have a deep run, which he should have. The top team in the entire league losing in the second round will leave a bad taste in anyone's mouth. But a team like Colorado, who has been so hungry for a championship for so many years, it's gonna be different, and it's gonna sting a lot more. We recently on the channel talked about Steve Yzerman, the GM of the Detroit Red Wings, and how successful he has been, and what a mastermind he is building that young core in Detroit. But we already have a young core dominating the league in Colorado. Nathan MacKinnon, Bowen Byram, Cale Makar, Gabe Landeskog, and Mikko Rantanen are taking over the league, and most of those guys are just getting started. And you'd expect a core like that, with so much talent and so much untapped potential, to be able to make a deep run in the playoffs. And you're right for that expectation, but they've just always been one piece away. And Sakic got the last piece of the puzzle this offseason, when the Colorado Avalanche acquired Philip Grubauer's replacement, Darcy Kuemper, from the Arizona Coyotes. In the last few years, Colorado's goaltending has always been a hot topic. Finding a stable option between the pipes is something the Avs have struggled with. Finally, they got Philip Grubauer via trade at the draft. They signed him to a 3-year deal worth $10 million total, and he took off. In 2019, he became the Avs starter and led them into the playoffs, defeating the Calgary Flames in round 1, but couldn't get past that. But just that much was so much of a victory for a team like Colorado. Looking for a stable option at goaltender, as I mentioned, but they did have Semyon Varlamov. And Grubauer earned that right to be the starter in the playoffs over a veteran like Varlamov, was definitely something that left a good impression on his teammates and everyone around him. The deal that Grubauer had was making the Avs look like geniuses. 3 years on $10 million set the Avs up for a hopeful deep playoff run in 2020, and expectations were high for the young netminder. Varlamov left in free agency, and the crease belonged to Grubauer specifically. But injuries had their way with Gru, and he ended up missing a good chunk of the season, and then again in the playoffs, only playing 7 games between the pipes, and ultimately got the injury that led to the Avalanche being eliminated from the playoffs. It would have been different if they had Gru in for the entire run, but, you know, injuries, they're just one of the worst parts of the game, and you hate to see it happen to anyone. There were really high expectations for Grubauer as he came off the injury. Many people were really hoping for him to bounce back, and he was one of those people. He was going into a contract year, he wanted to be able to get a good offer on the market, and he had to set himself apart as a top goaltender in the league. And to do that, he needed a big season. The German-born goaltender took those expectations to the next level. A Vezina finalist, a career year playing 39 of 56 games, and winning 30 of those. A goals against average of 1.95 and a .922 save percentage. He set himself as one of the top 3 goalies in the league. Unfortunately, he could not bring the Vezina home, but he definitely deserved it just as much as Marc-Andre Fleury or the other guys. But everyone sensed that Grubauer's future with the team depended on how they went in the playoffs. And after a disappointing second round exit, you got the feeling he likely wouldn't re-sign in Colorado. Ultimately, Gru left to the Seattle Kraken, and the Avs were looking for a replacement, and it didn't take long for them to strike gold, trading for Darcy Kuemper from the Arizona Coyotes. If you've been around the channel for a long time, you'll know Darcy Kuemper is my favorite goalie in the NHL. So I might sound a little biased when I say this, but if he can stay healthy, he can lead the Avs deep in the playoffs, and potentially even to the Stanley Cup as soon as this season. But he has to stay healthy. Injuries have been a problem for Kuemper throughout his career, whether it was in LA, Minnesota, or Arizona. And when he is healthy and playing at 100%, he's a top 3 goalie in the league. There was a time a couple of years ago I believed he was the best in the NHL. And I think that if he can have a full season where he's playing healthy, he can win the Vezina Trophy. He had a down year last year, and it led to his value being at an all-time low. And Joe Sakic took advantage of that and showed why he was one of the better GMs in all of hockey. But he still paid a price. A first-rounder and Connor Timmins. That's definitely a lot to give up for a goaltender, but it was a gamble, and it's going to pay off for the Avalanche. It will be a late first-round pick likely in 2022, as the Avs are expected and set up for another playoff run. Hopefully they can get deeper this year. And Connor Timmins was likely never going to be more than a third-pairing D-man with what they have. And their offseason took a lot of gambling. They lost Jonas Donskoy to the Seattle Kraken in the expansion draft and traded Ryan Graves. The Ryan Graves trade was probably the one that stuck out the most for me from the Avs perspective. It didn't make that much sense, but I can trust Joe Sakic and say that it's gonna work out somehow. And he's clearing cap space and clearing space, and he used that space to sign Cale Makar to a steal of a contract, considering how much guys are going for on the open market currently. Kuemper has never been a really flashy guy. He's been able to make the good saves when he needs to, and he's looked phenomenal for the Arizona Coyotes. And you have to remember, he's put up these kind of numbers that are on your screen right now, playing with the Arizona Coyotes, with a defense that only really has one good defenseman in Jacob Chychrun. And maybe that's what led to all the injuries. He was facing a lot of shots per game, and it's got to take a toll on a guy like Kuemper. He's 31 years old, and he's chasing a cup, but he's on a very cheap and reasonable deal for a goaltender of his caliber. He's making $4.5 million this year, but $3.5 is paid by the Avalanche, as they got $1 million retained by Arizona. This is a deal that'll work out good for both teams. However, I think that this is going to be one of the best trades Sakic has ever made when it's all said and done. You might not believe in him, but I believe in Darcy Kuemper. I've watched a lot of him with the Coyotes, and I know what he's capable of, if he can stay healthy, of course. And if he can, then Avalanche fans have so much to look forward to. They're getting a top 5 goaltender in the league if he's on his game and if he's healthy. And you know that he's going to be the best player that he's ever been when he's playing behind a top defense in the league. And with guys like Cale Makar, Nathan MacKinnon, and Mikko Rantanen on his team, they're going to be outscoring the opponent, and Kuemper will not allow more than 3 goals a game most nights, and those are his bad nights. He's had a lot of shutouts in his career and really blossomed into a top goaltender with the Coyotes, but he still has a lot more potential to reach, and that's what I believe he will find with the Colorado Avalanche. He's capable of being a top-tier goaltender, but injuries is what has held him back. And if he can put that behind him and stay healthy throughout the year, I think the Colorado Avalanche can actually win the cup this season with Darcy Kuemper. He's the best goalie that they've had in quite some time. And considering that at the time, the only guy available on the free agent market that would be able to replace Grubauer was Devan Dubnyk, this was a trade that needed to be made. And we knew that the Coyotes were looking for anything that they could get out of anyone they could sell. And that's what's worked out so well for them in this offseason, as they have had a really underrated one. They weren't afraid to retain some salaries so that it could work out the best for both teams. You have to understand, they're giving away a top tier goalie. You're not going to get that for nothing. And a first round pick, a conditional third, and a guy like Timmins is definitely a price that I'd pay for Darcy Kuemper. Many people are thinking he got fleeced. Sakic didn't get fleeced. This is going to work out perfectly for the Colorado Avalanche, and they're going to have a heck of a season next year. Whether Darcy stays healthy or not, this is going to work out long term for both sides, and I think that this is a trade that Sakic won't soon regret. He can lead them to the Cup final. I think he's the final piece of the puzzle for the Avalanche, and that they can make a run deep in the playoffs with Darcy Kuemper. He's not a downgrade from Philip Grubauer. Kuemper just hasn't been given an opportunity to play with a good team. He's been playing behind one of the worst defenses in hockey with the Coyotes, with Oliver Ekman-Larsson on their top four. And the Coyotes don't score many goals. So to put up the numbers that Kuemper has, especially with the wins, this is going to work out well for number 35 and the Avs. I'm really just excited to see how Darcy Kuemper can do given a chance on a good team. No matter who Colorado's goaltender is, they're almost guaranteed a playoff spot right now. And how good of a core Sakic has built, and finally getting that last piece to become Stanley Cup champions, I think it's going to work out really well for the Avs. And that Sakic is going to look like a genius after this deal. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe. Let me know your expectations for Kuemper this year. I see him being top 3 for the Vezina if he can stay healthy. And like I said, playing in front of such a good defense is going to help out Darcy Kuemper so well in the long run. He's not going to face as many shots, they're going to score more goals, and he can lead them maybe to another President's Trophy. But let me know your guys' thoughts. I'll see you guys all in the next video. Goodbye.